This is The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. Christine Leahy is joining me for Hour 2. Want to thank NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell for joining us 30 minutes ago. We asked the questions. He gave us answers. We talked about gambling, moving too many teams at once, the XFL. Can you figure out the catch rule? As a consumer, I find it confusing. About has this been the most difficult year to be a commissioner? I think it's interesting as we're a week out from the Super Bowl now, actually less than a week. So this happens every Super Bowl, and I think this is kind of fun. During the course of the season, I watch something called Pro Football Focus. It's a website. Chris Collinsworth is one of the owners of it. It's called PFF, Pro Football Focus, and they grade every player. And I find it very important when it comes to linemen. I can watch receivers, quarterbacks, backs, corners, make my own judgments, linebackers. But I find for offensive and defensive line play, it is incredibly valuable because I don't watch left guards and right tackles and interior linemen. And so I really lean on them for positions that I don't get to see as much. I get to see the quarterback, wide receiver, backs, corners. You know, I can tell who can play and who can't. We all know Eric Berry at Kansas City is really talented when you watch him lock down Gronk. It didn't take a genius to figure it out. We all know Aaron Rodgers is really good and Zeke is really talented. But it's interesting. So they rank, Pro Football Focus over the course of a year ranks players. And every year on the Monday, they start ranking the top 10 players in the Super Bowl. And Tom Brady is the top-ranked player, and Rob Gronkowski is number 2. And then the Patriots have the 7th and 8th best player, Stephon Gilmore and Trey Flowers. But 6 of the top 10 are Philadelphia Eagles, and 14 of the top 20 are Philadelphia Eagles. So this is like, ooh, whoa, ah. Go look back at history. Same with the Seattle Seahawks. Same with the Atlanta Falcons. Same with the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles, to me, feel very much like Seattle and Atlanta. An NFC team with a lot of great individual athletes that go into the game without a coach as good as Belichick or a quarterback as good as Brady. But there is a sense now, look at Philadelphia, 14 of the top 20 players. And I don't for a second question the authenticity of Pro Football Focus. But I do think this is happening. And I don't think it's happening with the coaches, but I think it's happening with the media and the fans. We are looking at the Philadelphia-Minnesota game and giving it too much impact. Listen, when Philadelphia at home beat Atlanta, Atlanta had just flown cross-country. They were a road-weary team, flew back to Atlanta, back up to Philadelphia. There was not equal rest. When they played Minnesota, again, Minnesota had to go on the road as a dome team. They don't do well in NFC championships, 0-12, last 12. And secondly, they had just come off the miracle win, biggest win in 15, 20 years for Minnesota. Remember, New England now is equally rested, just as healthy, neutral field, with far more experience, coach and quarterback. I'm hearing too many people say, look at what Philadelphia did to Minnesota. A week earlier, if you look at the numbers against Atlanta, and Atlanta shares more in common with New England, veteran coach, veteran quarterback, good personnel on defense, probably better personnel on offense. Here's the numbers for you. This was in Philadelphia, a night game. Those numbers are pretty comparable, right? Total yards, rushing yards, passing yards, and that was a tired Atlanta team on the road, dome team, cold weather. All I'm saying is this. This is no disrespect to Philadelphia, but the media does this. They look at the very last thing that happened, and they say, that's going to happen again, and it almost never does. Atlanta was an exhausted, road-weary team going on the road, and Minnesota was another dome team going on the road off a miracle win. This is a completely different environment. Let's bring in Jim Mora, former Falcons and Seahawks head coach, UCLA head coach, to our show. I love having him on. You know, whenever I see this ranking of the players, and 14 of the top 20 are Eagles, you know Tom Brady.
I do.
You do know Tom. In fact, he worked out at your UCLA campus, didn't he?
Yeah, he's something special. Great story about Tom. It was. Can I tell?
Yeah, please take your time.
My stories, right?
I got nothing but time. I love stories.
Okay, so a few years ago, and there were some particular Dallas Cowboys that decided to spend the bye week before the divisional playoff game down in Cabo.
Tony Romo and Jason Witten.
You said it, I didn't.
Okay, there you go.
So it's Saturday morning, and I get a call from Tom Brady about 7:30. He says, "Hey, Jim, can you meet me up at UCLA and let me on the field? I want to throw." And I go, "You're in town?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm in town." I go, "It's your bye week." He goes, "I know, I need to get a workout in."
Bye week.
Bye week before the divisional playoff game. So not bye week during the season, but bye week in the playoffs. So you'd think maybe he would want to rest and recover. 8 a.m. on the West Coast, Tom's out there throwing, And to me, that's just one of the things that makes him so special is that commitment. You showed his, devotion to his film study.
Yeah.
But he's driven, he's driven by an unusual passion to be great. I don't know where it comes from. I was fortunate to be at San Francisco when we worked him out coming out of Michigan.
Oh, please tell me the story.
Oh, it's great. So it's a local workout, and if you're within 50-mile radius of the facility, if you grow up, you can work out there. So Tom came back to the Bay Area,
and Bill Walsh was there.
Bill was there, and Bill said, "No, we're not going to take this guy. This guy, he doesn't have what we need." This is Bill Walsh,
sure.
One of the men I admire most in this profession. Love him, gave me so many opportunities, and I think that Tom just has something just deep down inside that just won't let him ever lower his standard. And I've been lucky, Colin. I've been around, I think, 21 or 23 members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Do they have a common thread?
Oh gosh, yes, they do. It's just that it's this passion for excellence. It's this willingness to do whatever it takes to separate themselves from those that may have equal ability but just don't have the same mindset. And you see it in Tom, and you saw it in Ronnie Lott, and Jerry Rice. I got to spend 8 years with Jerry Rice, and to watch him every day just attack everything he did with his passion, I think it was fueled by the fact that he was the 16th pick of the draft, and everybody said he couldn't run rather than one of the top 2 or 3. Tom's that way. He's an amazing guy. What a great person he is.
Jim, I say this to my wife all the time. I used to joke, and I said it to Kirk Herbstreit. I said, granite countertops are the end of our children, because when you got a nice home and a nice kitchen and there's no fear. And I said, there's something about being rejected.
Yeah.
And you're a dad, and you've been a very successful dad, and you've nice home, nice neighborhood. And you grew up similarly, I'm sure, in your family. There is something to be said that I don't think coaches can teach, is that you feel like nobody believes in you.
Sure.
Ray Lewis tells this story.
Absolutely.
Ray's like, I wanted to play for Florida State, and they said I was too short.
Yeah, it comes from somewhere. It's not always innate. This drive to be great.
Right.
Sometimes it's innate, but I think oftentimes it's driven and fueled, like you said, by something somewhere along where somebody told you couldn't do it, or you weren't quite good enough, or you just didn't fit in, and you have something deep within you that others don't, that says, you know what, I reject that, and I will spend the rest of my life trying to prove you wrong. And I don't think a guy like Tom wears it on his sleeve, or every day he comes out with an anger. I think that the great ones have a way of releasing the anger and maintaining the motivation, and I think it's awesome to watch. Just the fact that Tom would call on a Saturday morning at 7:30 on his off week and say, "Hey, we got a big game coming up. I want to come down to UCLA and throw the football around." It spoke volumes for just who he was and the standards that he's always trying to attain.
So when you go into a Super Bowl week, it's interesting. I was saying earlier today, Brady and Belichick have basically run a private covert operation. They finally let us in, and it's coming back to bite them. The Brady thing.
Yeah.
Do I worry about that, Jim?
No, don't worry about it, Colin. Let me tell you why. We were talking about this before the show. The book Patriot Reign. You've read that book?
Yeah,
Patriot
yes.
Reign? Well, it was a look into the season of the New England Patriots. So people are documenting their seasons that we don't know about. I was really good friends with the Sable family. My mom and dad were great
Ed
friends
Sable
with Ed and Steve, and particularly Steve.
Uh-huh.
And when I was a head coach in the NFL, Steve used to beg me all the time, let me in the locker room. Let me come to practice. Let me put a mic on you. Let me document these things because you'll want them someday. And I was always reluctant to do it because I didn't want to let people into the sanctity of the core.
Totally get that. I would literally protest Hard Knocks. I'd quit the.
Well, I wouldn't do Hard Knocks. I think that NFL Films is different, and I think there's something to documenting the season and the success and the process. So that you can show your kids, your grandkids, or historians can learn from it. And
Sure.
we're talking about sports, not military history, but still there's an interest there.
Yes.
And I don't think it's as big a distraction as it used to be. These players now are so used to cameras and social media and people being around them. Von Miller hired a guy that worked at UCLA for me to kind of document his life as he goes through these next few years. And I think it's really interesting. So I don't think it's a distraction. I don't think this thing with Tom and his little girl is a distraction for Tom. Tom is going to go out on Sunday in front of 85 or 90,000 people and tens of millions watching nationwide with Chris Long rushing him every down. And if he's going to be distracted by a comment a radio guy made, then he wouldn't be Tom Brady.
When you go into a game like this, it's interesting. The stats say in the NFL, Jim, that a bye week doesn't necessarily help you as much as playing at home. Philadelphia at home is better than Philadelphia off a bye, right? Mm-hmm. We know home does matter. When you have 2 weeks, can you take our audience, Jim, into can there be paralysis by analysis that you find yourself, God, I'm going too deep on this. It's men playing a very physical game. Have you ever overcoached?
Sure, we all overcoach. But, you're talking about a guy in Coach Belichick that he knows how to not overcoach. And what these teams will do is they will have taken last week and they will put their game plan in. They will have taken care of all the logistics for this week. And then this week will just be a tune-up and a refinement.
You won't put any exotics in on Friday if you see something on tape?
If you do see something, and coaches are notorious, just like Tom is, for just watching tape over and over. And if you see something, that has escaped your viewing up to that point, you might add it. But I think for the most part, the plan's in, and now it's just creating the right mindset.
So there's psychology, Jim.
It's big time. There's a big time psychology to it, and I would venture to say that Bill Belichick is a master psychologist.
Yeah, I thought Parcells was. When you read Parcells' book, Jim,
Bill Walsh was.
Oh, was he?
Oh, God. His meetings. So I used to have Bill come into my meetings. I'd ask him, I'd say, Bill, can you come as a coordinator at San Francisco? Can you come into my meetings and sit in the back and just listen? And then I'd go download with him after. What'd you think? He goes, I would say this a little differently because maybe you can reach this part of their mindset and just the things he said and the way he said things. He was so fun to listen to. So fun to listen to.
Yeah. Hey, it's great seeing you, Coach. Love having you here.
Love being here.
Jim Mora. By the way, international superstar David Beckham is joining us today. And Peter King, Matt Barnes, we're just starting. Roger Goodell and Jim Mora. It is Super Bowl week officially. If you're searching for the perfect Valentine's gift, and Valentine's is what, Christine said, February 14th?
Yes, it's February 14th. Every year, Colin. You should know this as a married man.
I just got Christmas down a couple years ago, okay. Christine. I'm not an expert on this
Do I need to remind you about your anniversary, too?
No, you do not. 1-800-Flowers.com. They make the simple beautiful and the beautiful simple. For a limited time right now, get a dozen multicolored roses. It's $29.99. That includes delivery. A dozen multicolored roses, $29.99. Now you can upgrade to 24 roses for only $10 more. But it's only for this week, okay? It comes to Valentine's, February 14th. It's around the corner. So to order a dozen multicolored roses, $29.99. And that includes shipping. Or upgrade to 24 for only 10 more. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com, 1-800-Flowers.com, and enter the code HERD, H-E-R-D.